astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start.
2, 1.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jeranism, back with another video for you today. Just a few things. Mostly wanted to point out a little Twitter exchange I had with everyone's favorite professor, Mr. Cryin' Box, or as you might know him, Brian Cox. It all started with an interview I read, linked in the description, with Brian talking to I Freaking Love Science. And in that interview, a question was asked, and Brian gave an answer that I felt was, well, pretty unscientific. The question was, we've also seen a bizarre spate of people coming out in favor of Earth being flat recently. How do you deal with people like that? And Brian responded,
Again, I don't think you can change the opinion of people who are ridiculous. And that is the most ridiculous example of not thinking that you can possibly imagine. I think what you can do is just turn them into laughingstocks, which is, I think, my general approach to people. It's very difficult to argue with an idiot, particularly in a forum such as a chat show where you've got a limited amount of time. So my view is you have to sort of essentially show them up to be fools as quickly as possible. I think that's the only way that you can proceed. Oh wow, it'd be really cool if you'd grab me those 2 spheres over there. Yes, I love balls. Spheres make me so happy. See how they repel each other? Of course they do, because it's science. And everyone knows that the most perfect shape of all time, of all shapes, are spheres. You know, the reason I became a physicist, I've always loved to test and yank on spheres. They're everywhere in space, and sometimes they even bump into each other, and when they do, they go this way and that. They might fly here or there. If they break into new pieces, well, guess what? They just reform as spheres again. Because spheres, like science, are perfect. But sometimes there's some bigger spheres, and they are not kind to smaller ones. Sometimes the bigger ones even call the small ones small cocks. Small cocks. Little tiny baby cocks. And for almost no reason at all. We can't all be great and overwhelming. So we need a way for little spheres to push away the big ones. And that's why I became a scientist. Because this way I'm always right. Then I can handle myself by simply shaming anyone who doesn't worship the sphere like I do. There's nothing more perfect in the entire world than spheres. I love them. I love science.
alright, well, he definitely got a little carried away there. It was actually only the first part, the quote that you see on the screen now, that had me upset. So what I did was I made a little meme really quickly that basically is the scientific method versus the Cox scientific method. And then the tweet said, "Thank goodness we have scientific educators like Professor Brian Cox. He tells us all how to act when people question our claims." So in the scientific method that we've all been raised with, that we all know, it goes purpose, research, hypothesis, experiment, analysis, and conclusion. But Cryin' Box's is a little bit different. His starts out with a purpose, same thing, but then you have to ask an authority, and then you have to agree with anything that they say as long as it's consensus, and then you have to show graphs and charts, and then you have to cry when anybody is skeptical of your claims, and then you must shame them and turn them into laughingstocks, and then collect your check as you enslave the human race. So, I sent that tweet expecting it to be over. But then, just minutes later, he decided to respond by saying, "I'm sure somewhere I also said a jab-jab cross combination might be helpful." Which I guess that means that not only are they idiots and you should shame them, but you should also beat them up. At least as far as I can tell, with some sort of jab, cross, uppercut thing. So then I said, so being I'm an idiot flat earther, why not join me on my channel and explain to my 60,000 subs how wrong we are while you prove the ball? Well, he responded to that one too by saying, "Because I'm too busy talking to my 2.6 million intelligent followers and can't be arsed wasting my time." So I finally replied, "Yeah, so intelligent. Believing every word you say without proof or evidence sounds like a religion, the divine words of Pope Cox, hashtag scientism." And then after waiting a little while and not receiving a response to that, I posted one final GIF image and said, "When Professor Brian Cox walks into a room and someone mentions proof or evidence." And that's got to be the funniest thing ever. Could watch this over and over again. Here comes Brian Cox and, oh, proof, evidence? Oh, can't do that. Oh, proof, evidence? No. Sorry, ain't gonna do it. Alright, and then I also tweeted out this little Final Jeopardy question here. Let's play. The category is frauds. These pathetic clowns have spent nearly 60 years lying to the world and pretending they can travel in space, while faking moon landings, rovers on Mars, and images of Saturn, and even faking satellites. They have stolen over $1 trillion from the U.S. taxpayer.
NASA.
Hello.
NASA.
You have to wait till the
NASA. NASA.
You guys aren't playing right.
NASA.
Alex.
NASA. NASA.
What are you guys...
NASA. NASA.
Yeah, what are you doing?
NASA.
This isn't how you play.
NASA. 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 NASA.
Alright, but that's not even how you play. I guess all three of you won. Johnny, tell them what they won. You lucky three have just won a worthless trip to Cape Canaveral! You and a guest will fly round-trip coach on the ISS while you... round-trip coach on the NASA Super Guppy while you enjoy a 2-day tour at Kennedy Space Center. Yes, for only $125 you get to witness what your tax money already paid for. Plus, you'll enjoy a short walk to the gates when you pay only $10 for priority parking. Yeah, you may think this prize already included too much for you three, but of course we have much more. Because while you eat, learn at the same time while you pay $199 for lunch with a space actor. Yes, you and your guest will each get to eat lunch for $199 each with an astronaut, asking whatever questions we give you to ask. And after your food settles, you'll get to expand your imagination while you get an up-close and personal look with a model of the space shuttle. That's absolutely right. You'll get to enjoy a tour of the set where scenes from space and the shuttle were filmed. Look but don't touch. The shuttle that braved the vacuum of space is very delicate. And just when you think your day is over, jump aboard as we count down to blast off as you enjoy a bus tour of the facility. Yes, you and your guests will get to inspect the swamp and even see the tallest building in the history of the world, the VAB. Yes, the VAB is so large, it has its own climate and even its own population and economy. And when that tour is over, we invite you back inside, where you can be like NASA as you fake it with a green screen. You'll see how the magic all works as we magically transport you to orbit. Then, you get to magically transport something to us when you spend the rest of your money at the gift shop. Who can't live without a NASA cup or a special edition NASA keychain on sale right now for $39.99? And when you finally spent your last dollar, go backstage with us to see how we spend our money as we pay off the round earth shill Joe Rogan. Enjoy the laughs that come with purposefully fooling the world's population. And what Space Center trip is complete without getting to touch the truly unbelievable? Yes, put your hands on this piece of petrified wood. Yes, our moonwalkers had to go quite far to get this petrified wood for you. How far? Well, why don't you tell us while you lean back and take a lesson in how we use helium as you and your friend enjoy a real-life NASA rocket launch. Don't forget to plug your ears as up, up, and away. And as it ends in the ocean. All this is yours. A fantastic trip with a value of 7 cents. However, you couldn't pay me to go to that hellhole. Congratulations, Jared. Back to you. Wow, sounds like an awesome trip. That trip used to include an afternoon with Buzz Aldrin, but it didn't go over too well because Buzz would always just pretend he was there. So that didn't work out. So we're looking here at my Twitter feed, and I posted an image of the NASA satellite Lady, and these images that they try and pass off as real. Go search Lady Moon Images, Ladee, and tell me what you think of these images. A child could make better fakes. But you'll notice something funny here. About once a week, either Twitter or NASA, or whoever it might be, goes into my Twitter profile and deletes my photos and videos section. Could it be because I only post images and videos showing NASA to be frauds? So you'll see as I scroll up here that now there are only 5, and those will surely be gone soon. Here's one of the images taken by Lady. And to think that Kreinbach said if you question the moon landings, you need a new brain. Well, anyone who thinks this is an actual photo of the moon has completely lost their mind. Certifiably crazy. But I don't know. Brian is pretty smart and scientific and all. Has anyone seen his charts on climate change? Wow. Facts. Oh, by the way, I have a chart as well of the latest scientific findings in the globe versus flat earth debate. Looks like flat earth is just flying past the globe. Wow. Ask my friends. You'll see there is a definite consensus. And here's Brian talking with climate denier, which I'll call a skeptic, Malcolm Roberts. And a great job by Malcolm holding his own as Brian tries to tell him how this chart equals facts.
The absolute consensus is that human action is leading to an increase in average temperatures. Absolute consensus. I know you may try to argue with that, but you can't.
No, not in my
So
I'm going to go quickly to Malcolm Roberts. We want to hear from all the panellists on this.
Sure.
But
Sure. The longest temperature record for temperatures on this planet is the Central England temperature record, which goes back to the mid-1600s. And I'm absolutely stunned that someone who is inspired by Richard Feynman, a fantastic scientist who believes in empirical evidence, is quoting a consensus.
can I just say, I brought the graph, right? I mean, can I just... The pause that's off.
Watch here his right hand, how much it's shaking from anybody who dare questions his graph.
Do we understand the physical mechanisms and the influence of those of the 19th century?
Brian,
I can teach you. I'll give you a lesson if you want. I could give you.
Can you go back to the middle of the graph there?
Yeah, that graph.
Yeah, the peak in the middle?
Yep,
What year is that?
that's about 1941.
Yeah, 1930s and 40s were warmer than the current decades. Where's that?
Well, no,
what's the data source?
Well, not exactly.
No, the original records are. The original records are far warmer. But the other thing that tells me that graph has got something wrong with it.
okay, I'm just going to pause here. So you're hearing.
It was an El Nino year.
Both were El Nino years. That's the point you're taking out of
Malcolm, just
context.
1 second. You're hearing the interpretation of a highly qualified scientist, and you're just saying, I don't believe it. Is that right?
I'm saying two things. I'm saying two things. First of all, that the data has been corrupted, and we know that the 1930s
What do you
were
mean by
warmer than
corrupted?
today.
Yeah.
Corrupted? What do you mean corrupted?
Been manipulated
By who?
By NASA. By the
NASA?
yes.
The
Hang on a second,
guys. No, so this is quite serious.
No, I'm going to
It
just ask
is
the audience,
serious.
just hang on. We've actually got to hear what's being said here. So it's all very well to laugh, but we want to hear what's being said.
Steve Goddard, he has shown the NASA figures, and the graph was originally showing that 1930s were warmer than recent decades, and that is correct. And people have recognised that for many, many years. And in the recent years, they've been reversed so that the 1930s were reduced in temperature and the later periods were inflated in temperature. That's a fact. Now, the Bureau of Meteorology is exactly the same. And Greg Hunt squashed an investigation of the Bureau of Meteorology earlier this year.
Okay, all right, Greg Hunt.
Can I just check you one thing? NASA. Now NASA.
Yes.
The people that landed men on the moon.
Yes.
The people that landed men on the moon. I should just ask, actually, you believe we landed men on the moon? But,
See the little trick there?
no.
It's questioning whether or not I believe that I'm a moon skeptic. Now,
Are you?
no, I'm not.
Oh, right. No, but I mean, it's a serious accusation. I mean,
is
the
serious.
idea that NASA but the point is that the accusation that NASA, pretty all the Australian, the Met Office in the UK, everybody is collaborating to manipulate global temperature data.
Unless we learn otherwise,
it will be prudent to suppose that the next ice age could begin to bite at any time.
In the 1970s, there was a big scare about global cooling. Climate experts were worried that we might be headed towards a new global ice age. Time magazine reported in 1974 that, quote, the atmosphere has been growing gradually cooler for the past 3 decades. The trend shows no indication of reversing.
These are all experts in their field, and they advise us on what is real and what is not real. And as far as I'm concerned, where politics comes into play is how to implement their advice. They advise us on what is real and what is not real, and they advise us on what is real and what is not real. And
as far as I'm concerned, politics should be based on empirical evidence. All policy should be based on empirical evidence. I've heard consensus, which is not science. I've heard appeals to authority, which is not science. I've heard various illusions.
Hang on.
Hang on. Hang on, Brian. One of your inspirers is Richard Feynman. Richard Feynman says it doesn't matter how beautiful, how emotional your theory. If the evidence does not suit, it is wrong. That's what Richard Feynman says. And what we need is not just empirical evidence.
Can I have 1
we
minute?
need empirical. Hang on.
Yeah,
we need empirical evidence that demonstrates and proves cause and effect. Greg Hunt says he relies on advice. I have never ever heard Greg Hunt say that he relies on data.
Well, I've been listening to all the global warming talk for a long time and posting material about global warming on our website. But finally, the crescendo of global warming myth, nonsense, exploded in my head, and I had to write a real rant. And all I was doing was telling you the truth as best I know it. Glenn, you got to make a living, first of all. So you spent 10 years becoming a PhD in meteorology. You got a research job, and you decide you're going to research the effect of human activity on global climate. And if you were to put out a research report that said not much and it doesn't seem too bad, you probably wasted all your... And I found out it was bogus science. It wasn't real. The numbers had been massaged. The whole thing had been created. What bothered me was that the other scientists had accepted it. Well, why did they possibly do that? And I think the real answer to that question is that they all have an agenda, an environmental and political agenda that said, let's pile on here. We're all going to make a lot of money. We're going to get research grants. We're going to get awards. We're going to become famous.
Next, we got Brian saying that he doesn't even accept that the moon landings need proving. So I'll go ahead and set this up real quick. You have Brian and a producer driving to an observatory to shoot lasers at the moon. The producer wrote in the script that this would help prove the moon landings to the skeptics, even though they shot lasers off the moon in 1961. So he's asking Brian where they're going and what does it have to do with those that question the moon landings. And number one, Brian never read the script. Number two, he completely loses his mind over the question even being asked. Go ahead and enjoy the science.
Okay, where are we going?
There are so... No, I'm saying it on camera. There are so many things that you could talk about, right? You could talk about... Oh, I don't know, fuck it. Bollocks. The moon landings happened, and it's nonsensical. It's like saying, was America ever discovered? Right. Well, yes, it was. Did we work out how to... Did we discover penicillin? Yes. Did we go to the moon? Yes. That's the end of it. There's no information, content, or use in debating it anymore.
Right. Tell me where we're going in respect to the fact that ultimately this completely proves the fact that they went there.
Well, first of all, I don't even accept that it needs proving, because you've got to be a complete moron to anyway.
But no, remember, if you don't hear my question, your answer doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, right. Are you really suggesting that in this program, a scientific documentary program about gravity, you're going to even mention the words, could it have been true that the moon landings were fakes?
Well, you know the script that I wrote?
Yes.
Did you read it?
No.
No. There we go.
Does it say something about the moon landings?
It says something like, it's a comedy throwaway line. I'm not saying that we're saying that it didn't happen. It's a comedy throwaway line in that, of course it bloody happened, because I fire a laser at the moon and it sends it back. It's a silly thing to have said. So...
Alright.
Where are we going and what does it prove or not prove, and who cares?
We're going to the laser range. We're going to the lunar... We're going to the... Where are we going? Where are we going?
McDonald Observatory.
McDonald Observatory.
So, Brian, no interest in proving your claims, huh? Just laugh at people, throw graphs at people, cry a lot. Well, you never even responded to the 2 open letters at allist.com, and now you're too busy for me. Well, I speak only for myself, but in no way have you earned the respect from me that you think you deserve. I really don't care how smart you think you are, but if you're so smart, then join me on my channel, not for a debate, but you can just come and end all this silly flat earth stuff by just showing the evidence. That's all we want. But you don't look at evidence. You simply believe what you're told. Well, guess what? I don't. That makes me a skeptic and you a dogmatic person of faith. So, who is more scientific? The one doing tests and asking questions, or the one who says you have to be a moron to believe X, or an idiot who should be turned into a laughingstock because your holy book has been questioned? I'm so sorry that I dare question your holy ground, but perhaps I'm wrong. See the difference? Maybe I'm wrong. You think you might be wrong, Brian? Of course you don't. That's the problem. You're no scientist, Brian. You're a priest. Open invite to Father Cox. Come teach us all and show us the evidence that the sun is 899,000 miles across and flying through space at 1.5 million miles per hour. Anytime, you're welcomed. I'll be here waiting. In the name of the Science Fathers, the Sun, and the Holy Sphere. Amen. Be kind, don't lie, and open your mind because there's truth inside. This has been Jeranism. Till next time.